Hi, this is my first video blog. I actually recorded one earlier, but YouTube keeps on saying it's too long. I have to shorten it up, and being so stupid. So, however, I have like 2-3 videos that I can't upload because they're too long. There's a lot to tell you people. I don't know what else to do, so I guess I'm just gonna have to break it up into segments and do it all over again. Thanks, YouTube, for being a great time waster. So, I get dropped off at the airport by Kristen Jacobus, who so wonderfully drove me in a little car to the airport. And I get through airport security about, from the time I left the car to the time I was sitting in front of the gate, was something like 35 minutes. It was ridiculous. It was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Hardly anybody was there. It was Tuesday, I think, Monday, Tuesday, whatever. Days kind of blur together when you're traveling, I guess, and going over multiple time zones. And so I sat in the gate, and I pretty much killed my cell phone because I was making all these phone calls on the trip to Minneapolis. I was making all these phone calls to friends and family, and trying to tell people things before I left. It wasn't like like crying or anything, but it was pretty much the last time I'd actually get to talk with them unless they had Skype. And so I talked to my parents who do not have Skype. I don't even think they have a webcam. And talked with them for a little bit. I got to my very last phone call out of the United States was to Nick Schreiner, who is my best friend. I miss him terribly. There are so many things here that I wish I could experience with him and tell him about. But unfortunately, I can't. I'm just going to have to buckle down and buy credits for my international cell phone and call him. And so, Nick, don't be surprised if you get a phone call from me that is only 5 minutes long, but it's all I could afford considering it's international calling. So I get on Iceland Air flight into Reykjavik, and Iceland Air is phenomenal. The flights, there's less layovers, it's less expensive, the people there are phenomenal. Their in-flight entertainment, their service and everything was just great. It was really nice. When I was on the flight, I didn't know how to get to Reykjavik Airport, into the hostel all around Reykjavik, and then from the hostel back to the airport, because I was spending 2 days there. So on the flight, there was, of course, the international flights, duty-free, phenomenal, awesome. I love duty-free, love it. So I get into Iceland after I buy this bus pass. It's €27, and it was for a fly bus in Reykjavik from the airport to the hostel, and they'll drop you off directly at the hostel, and from the hostel back, which is a really nice deal. It's €27. It was, of course, tax-free. Yay! It was a nice, inexpensive way, because at the time I didn't know how I was going to get from the airport to the hostel. I was thinking if I have to get a cab, it's going to be very, very expensive. It's not very efficient that way. So when I saw that in duty-free, I jumped on it. Everything was in the euro. I was trying to do the conversion rates in my head, and there was nothing else that I really needed. There were things that I wanted, but there was nothing that I really needed. So I was trying to get it by as cheap as possible. I got to the hostel at 9 a.m. after the flight. I went through Iceland security, which is pretty much an angry young man looking at me and scrutinizing me, stamped my passport, and then sent me on my way. I went to the hostel right away. It's 9 a.m. I couldn't check into the room until 2 a.m. At this point, even though I slept on the flight a little bit, I'm still, at that point, I was feeling a little bit jet lagged. So I get on my computer, get on Facebook, thinking, just trying to think around until I can put my bags and stuff in the room. And I start reading my Kindle, and about 2 o'clock, right before I can get into the room, my head starts to bob, and I am falling asleep. And I am trying my very best not to fall asleep. I get into the room. I made the mistake of, I'm just going to take a little bit of a nap. So I wake up at 6 o'clock. I fall asleep at about 3 o'clock, take a 3-hour nap. And I wake up at 6. I'm thinking, all right, I need to stay awake. I stay awake until about 9 o'clock. Fall back asleep. Wake up at midnight. at this point, I'm feeling a very wide awake. Like I'm thinking, ooh, it's morning when it's really midnight. And then I'm reading on my Kindle a little bit, and then I go back to bed, and I wake up at 7 a.m. So I had slept quite a bit. And the one day in Reykjavik was gone, unfortunately. It's just the jet lag and everything. I just could not get my butt out of bed. So the hostels are a lot like kindergarten, where you share. It's very much like a dorm room. 6 people could fit, and there's bunk beds, there's a desk, a full-length mirror, the public showers and bathrooms and such. And so I'm trying to. And so I have breakfast with some people and talk a little bit and get used to. Have a really nice breakfast actually. And talk with a few people, figure out what we're going to be doing that day, kind of share some stories, and everything is. Most people in Europe have their second language is English, so I did fit in the conversation relatively well. So my really second day in Iceland, I take what's called the Iceland discount pack, and coupons are really must be an American thing or just not Norwegian, because I asked about coupons in Norway. They're like, what's that? They don't really have. It's not like groceries or discount passes and stuff. This is a discount pass booklet, and they don't really have that in Europe. They don't really have that, I guess, in other countries. So, at least from what I've been hearing from other people. So, there's trips and tours, and I get there right at the end of puffin season, and there's all these like 10% off coupons and stuff. So I picked that up and I used that. I went to I got a map of Reykjavik, and it is everything that's really important, or anything that's really kind of historical, is denoted with a Viking on a horse, a little sword right here. So it's not only got the general information and bus routes, but it's also got the important historical moments or historical places marked clearly on the map for tourists. Thank you, Iceland, for doing that. I got a one-day pass at the hostel. This bus pass is a great investment if you're going to be in a strange city. Instead of 350 kroner each time you got on the bus, the whole bus pass was 700. So it really saves you a lot of money just doing the one-day pass on the bus. The very first place I went to was the Viken Maritime Museum, and it's showing pretty much the seafaring and that type of history. So this very large museum. The first thing I noticed was there's different flags on the wall, things that look familiar but I know which Scandinavian and Nordic countries. I know what the flags are, and I see some of these that are very similar, but they're not the same. And so I asked the tour guide. His name is Oli, and I'm not even kidding. He's 20-some years old, really cute. Toured with me and a few other girls on the tour, so which was really kind of exciting because an Icelandic man toured with me, and he was really cute. He said that's the Shetland Islands and the Shetland Islands, the Faroe Islands. That's the flag, and then I'm further reading because this time it was only in Icelandic, which is the thorn in the S. The alphabet isn't even. There's some more letters that are old English that I should have known because of history of the English language, and I don't. I'm sorry, Dr. Sauer. So, explaining the Call of the Sagas, it's an open boat trip that 2 seafarers took from Finland to Iceland to really understand what it was like to be a Viking. So they went in a small aluminum boat, or aluminium if you're British or just can't pronounce aluminum. And they went on this journey to understand the loneliness and the emptiness and the great accomplishment it is to really go through the North Sea on a 2-seater boat. And so they have a great sort of pamphlet from that. It was great to see that. And the rest of the Maritime Museum is the Cod Wars. Now, of course, being around medievalists, the giggle when you think Cod Wars, because, well, cod pieces and Festorsk and other things like that. Made me giggle. Yes, it was immature. Yes, I get it. And the museum was dedicated to people, seafarers who lost their lives, and this kind of dedication memorial plaque in it. And they had everything that was, pretty much everything was in Icelandic and then English right next to it. So of course I noticed there's a few things that, like misspellings, grammatical errors and stuff, but that's because some people would say nitpicky. I would just say very specific about some things in the English language. And of course, when you're translating things, they don't exactly mesh very well. But so me thinking when I see the Cod Wars, I'm thinking Cold Wars, but that's not. I think what that's not. They didn't have the Cold Wars. Maybe it's a different variation of it. I read further, and they had Iceland had extended their borders in between Greenland and Iceland and Norway, to be equal, but they also extended the other direction, north and south, for cod fishing, which is one of the main industries in Iceland. Most of the trips, Germany was somehow involved in this. I don't know how, but UK was mainly the people who were going up into the Iceland waters and fishing for cod. So Iceland really doesn't have a military, and so they sent out, which is kind of the equivalent of the Coast Guard, to fire on these ships, and they were ramming these ships. They would get into all-out fights and start ramming the boats together and stuff in the middle of the North Sea. And, okay, it's really, really dangerous. I can't handle a two-seater boat in the middle of Lake Sakakawea, so that really threw me for a loop, just because I was scared for those people. And this is in the 1960s and 1970s when they were doing this. And so they had a Coast Guard ship called Odin, and we got to tour on that. We got to go through I started on the helicopter pad, which was just added right at the end, right before it's decommissioned. The bridge, the captain's quarters, all that stuff, which is really cool. And again, the Icelandic tour guide, Oli, who had really good English skills, was answering our questions and stuff. The helicopter pad, which is a really interesting sign because it says always walk down from the helicopter instead of up, because it'll take your head off, it'll kill you, which seems like common sense. But right underneath that plaque, where they had the warning sign or the warnings and such of that helicopter pad, it was don't walk up because not only will your head get stuck, but it'll damage the propeller blades, and helicopter blades are too expensive. Never mind killing you. It's just that helicopter blades are too expensive. So it's very practical. It's a very interesting sign to read. Then after that museum, I went to the National Museum of Iceland. Here you can see, it looks like a little troll holding onto a cross. It's supposed to be Thor Odin holding onto Thor's hammer. Thor's hammer, I didn't know this until I went into this museum, which is right next to the University of Iceland, that Thor's hammer is actually a swastika. A lot of seafarers put it on their items for good luck. It's kind of a symbol of whatever leaves you will come back to you when you are worthy of it. It's kind of a really good seafarer symbol. But of course, obviously after World War II, a swastika took on a much different meaning. So when people would go up to Iceland, they would see the swastika, or it's actually Thor's hammer, and assume that it was anti-Semitism. It was very, very different to see that. And they still have it on hotels and things like that in Reykjavik, but they try and put it over that, or try and put Thor's hammer next to it to make people aware that it's not anti-Semitism. It's not swastika in that sense. It doesn't evoke that type of emotional response. The National Museum of Iceland was phenomenal. The people, again, really, really friendly, really good at answering questions. I went back to the hostel, slept, got into the airport. Air flight was supposed to take off at 7:30, and it didn't until like 10 o'clock. So I was a little bit late. But that was my journey through Iceland, and I loved my time there, and I am going to go back. I definitely want to go back and spend some time there and do some whale watching and such. I unfortunately couldn't do it because of the funds. I had some issues with money, but now that I'm getting paid from sales, I'll get it. Yay! So this is all that I have for now, and I will post more later. Have a great day. Bye!